What if I told you that without taxes, irrigation systems, and the occasional God King, you wouldn't even have a government today? It sounds wild, but hear me out. Before Wi-Fi, before democracy, even before feudal lords were yelling at peasants from horseback, centralized government rule was already shaping human civilization in ways we still can't escape. But why did humans, highly independent, stubborn little creatures, willingly decide to put someone in charge of them? Why not just let everyone do their own thing? Well, because when you have 50,000 people in one place, someone's got to be in charge of who gets water, who fixes the potholes, and who pays for the very large army guarding the city walls. So, today we're diving deep, like ancient irrigation canal deep, into the story of centralized government rule, why cultures crave uniform systems, how it all evolved, and yes, how China became a masterclass in how to rule a country like a boss, ancient edition. And along the way, expect a bit of philosophy, a few power-hungry kings, taxes, obviously, and a surprising comparison between the East and West that might just explain why Americans yell about freedom while Chinese citizens post TikToks about high-speed trains. Let's go. So where did this whole central government thing start? All right, picture it. 10,000 years ago, humanity has finally stopped wandering around with spears and figured out how to farm wheat. This, by the way, is the moment everything goes downhill for people who enjoy sleeping in. Because suddenly, agriculture creates surplus. Surplus means storage. Storage means someone has to keep track of who gets what. And before you know it, we have bureaucracy, taxes, and a guy named High Priest Accountant of the granaries who somehow has more power than the guy who actually grew the wheat. Early civilizations like Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley weren't just giant villages. They were proto-governments, managing irrigation systems, religious temples, and armies that were there just in case your neighbor got cute with their canal placement. And guess what makes all this possible? Centralization. If your town needs to build a dam or raise a defensive wall, you can't exactly hold a town hall meeting with 50,000 people yelling. You need a plan. You need a leader. You need some taxes. Spoiler, taxes are the backbone of civilization. Yeah, I said it. Without taxes, your fancy pyramids don't get built. Your army doesn't get paid. Your roads turn into mudslides every monsoon. Taxes were, and still are, what allows a government to function like a machine. In Rome, taxes funded roads that allowed the legions to march across Europe like a well-oiled war machine. In ancient China, taxes kept the imperial bureaucracy alive and helped maintain the Great Wall, which is essentially the world's largest keep-out sign. But here's the twist. The more stuff a civilization builds, the more people it needs to manage that stuff. This leads to the rise of state building, where kings, emperors, and sometimes entire religions get in on the action. From conquest to control. Let's not pretend all governments were voted into existence. A lot of them showed up with spears and said, "This is mine now." Alexander the Great conquered half the known world by 32. The Roman Empire controlled territory from Britain to North Africa. But you can't just conquer people and leave, you have to manage them. This is where centralization becomes strategic. These empires built postal systems, tax networks, standing armies, and to make sure nobody in the provinces got funny ideas about independence, they built roads to march their armies very quickly to rebellions. Powerful rulers centralized control because it made governing a vast, diverse empire way easier. You can't run a multi-ethnic, multilingual state by committee. You need hierarchy, you need order, and you need someone at the top pulling the strings. Whether they're called emperor, pharaoh, or just Jeff from central planning. Religion, the original PR team for government. Now, convincing millions of people to obey one guy with a crown isn't always easy. So how did ancient leaders justify their rule? Simple. They called in the gods. Pharaohs in Egypt, literally considered divine. Chinese emperors ruled under the mandate of heaven, a cosmic thumbs up that said, "This guy is chill, let him rule." Medieval kings in Europe claimed divine right. You disobey the king, you're basically disobeying God. Religion created loyalty, unity, and most importantly, legitimacy. And legitimacy is crucial for centralized systems. If people believe their ruler is chosen by heaven, they're less likely to storm the palace when taxes go up. Not zero chance, just less. East versus West, the Great Divide. Now here's where things get juicy. The East and West have very different ideas about government. And to understand why, we've got to talk about China. China, folks, is the undefeated heavyweight champion of centralized rule. We're talking over 2,000 years of relatively consistent top-down control. From the Qin dynasty in 221 BCE to today's Communist Party. Why did centralization work so well in China? Geography for one. The core of China is relatively flat and unified by major rivers. That made it easy for emperors to control and communicate across huge distances. In contrast, Europe is a fragmented mess of mountains, rivers, and angry neighbors. Also, Confucianism emphasized social harmony, hierarchy, and obedience to authority. It literally taught that the government's job is to behave like a strict but caring parent. In this worldview, a powerful centralized state isn't a threat. It's a necessary structure for a functioning society. Contrast that with the West, especially post-Enlightenment Europe and America, where thinkers like Locke and Rousseau popularized social contract theory. This idea said, hey, maybe governments only exist because we let them, and maybe we can throw them out if they suck. See the difference? In the East, especially China, stability is prized above individual liberty. In the West, freedom is often prioritized, even if it means a bit more chaos. That's why Americans celebrate revolution, while China celebrates thousands of years of centralized order. Centralization, the good, the bad, and the Orwellian. So centralization does a lot of good. It creates efficient infrastructure, delivers services, defends borders, and can even lift millions out of poverty when managed well. But it's not all sunshine and smooth bureaucracy. The dark side. Too much power. When one central authority controls everything, there's not much room for dissent. Hello, authoritarianism. Slow response to local needs. Central governments often suck at dealing with specific local issues. What works in Beijing might be nonsense in a Tibetan village. Corruption. Power concentrated in one place, that's a corruption magnet. Surveillance and control. With modern tech, centralized governments can do more than tax you. They can track you, censor you, and reprogram your algorithm. Future risks? Centralized AI governance, digital surveillance states, algorithmic control of public opinion. Sounds like sci-fi, but it's already happening. Central governments worldwide are experimenting with tools that make 1984 look like a user agreement checkbox. So why do cultures still prefer centralization? Because it's predictable, it feels safe. And in uncertain times, pandemics, wars, economic meltdowns, people often crave the appearance of control. Plus, cultures shape how we see authority. In collectivist societies, like many in Asia, there's an emphasis on harmony, duty, and respect for hierarchy. In individualist societies like the US, we worship personal freedom, even if it comes with a side of governmental gridlock. It's not about right or wrong, it's about values. So what did we learn? Centralized governments evolved because people needed order, management, and protection. From ancient farmers to modern superpowers, central authority has been the go-to solution for organizing society at scale. But with great power comes great surveillance, corruption, efficiency, maybe all three. And as the world gets more connected, centralized systems are becoming more digital, more powerful, and more complex. Whether that's a good thing or a terrifying one might depend on which side of the world map you're standing on. If you found this breakdown useful, or at least mildly life-changing, hit that like button, subscribe for more brainy deep dives, and check out the links in the description for more content. And hey, drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you trust centralized power? Or are you ready to build your own village in the woods with solar panels and goats? I'm not saying that's a bad idea. Just remember to bring snacks. See you in the next video!